welcome back again, our dear viewers. Now it's time for our daily press review for today, and we are very much delighted to have our dear guest in the studio, Mr. Ayoub Mahmoud. Ayoub, former Minister Commercial. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you.
And we'll start our press from Al Akhbar. Sisi, the first Egyptian president to visit Uganda. Summit talks with Museveni that stress on cooperation to increase the revenue of the River Nile and carrying out the project of linking Victoria to the Mediterranean Sea. An Egyptian-Ugandan summit in the city of Entebbe, and Sisi says the cooperation of the Nile Basin countries in projects that would increase the revenue of the river to benefit everyone. For his part, Museveni says, we appreciate the Egyptian role in opening to Africa, and we are keen on coordination and consultation regarding the various causes. And in a press conference with his Ugandan counterpart, President Sisi says, we do not only share the source of life, but also in our development and economic expectations. Still with the same issue, but this time from El Masri Al-Yom. President Sisi in Entebbe and calls for a new start with Africa. A maritime link between Victoria and the Mediterranean Sea, and Museveni says we appreciate Egypt's role. Presidential talks by Sisi in Uganda. The meeting tackles political and security coordination and activating the mechanism of consultation between both countries. And sources say the visit is to enhance cooperation with the southern Nile Basin countries. And from El Wafd, page 3, we read an Egyptian-Ugandan conference in Entebbe. Sisi and Museveni agree on establishing joint projects in Uganda. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi returned home on Sunday evening after a one-day official visit to Uganda, during which he met with Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni and tackled a number of files. At the end of the visit, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi held a press conference along with Museveni. Sisi tackled different challenges facing both nations, including terrorism and development aspirations. The president highlighted in his statement the depths of bilateral strategic between both countries and the importance of boosting them in different fields, particularly in the energy and water resources sectors. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi stressed on Egypt's keenness to increase its investment in Uganda. Besides giving special attention to increasing the trade exchange balance, the head of state also invited his Ugandan counterpart to visit Egypt. Sir, yesterday, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi did visit Uganda in a one-day official visit.
Yes.
He held a press conference with his Ugandan counterpart, Yoweri Museveni. They tackled many issues of mutual concern, the issue of the Nile Basin countries, the issue of the Nile River, cooperation between both countries, and expected projects to be done between both countries. How do you see the significance and importance of such a visit by President Sisi to Uganda?
First of all, alhamdulillah, back home, our president, and Uganda is a very important country as far as the sources of River Nile is concerned. Yeah. Relations between Egypt and Canada are not of today, but they are old relations in our universities, in Al-Azhar University, in several educational institutions, in hospitals and so on. And recently, in the last, let's say, 6 years, there have been some Egyptian investments in Uganda. It is very important to build on the Egyptian investments in Canada, because in Uganda, I mean, Uganda really needs cooperation, economic cooperation, technical cooperation with Egypt. When the president himself at this high level visits Uganda and sees President Museveni, this highlights the importance we give to Uganda as far as economic cooperation and natural resources is concerned. We are not looking for only for the Nile, but also for the cooperation mutually beneficial between Uganda and Egypt, and the Ugandans and the Egyptians as far as investment, trade, and technical cooperation is concerned. Another consideration, we see that the Nile Basin countries, the 9 countries, they have concluded some agreement to which we have our own view of it. When there is some kind of face-to-face encounter or a meeting between the presidents, they tend to feel the pulse. The pulse of the relations, not just the formalities of it. It is a very important visit, and we hope that it will be materialized in positive results soon, as far as connecting Lake Victoria to Mediterranean through several ways of transportation, land transportation, and maritime transportation, I mean.
Indeed, sir. And back to Al Akhbar. Boosting security at churches and hotels before the Christmas and the New Year. the preparations for the celebrations of Christmas and New Year, intensifying security measures around the perimeter of the churches, the hotels, the cinemas, and the public parks. These measures, of course, security measures would be implemented and intensified before all the celebrations marking, of course, the Christmas and New Year.
Yes.
And, of course, we have to say here that the Egyptian church did suspend and cancelled all celebrations this year because, of course, of the terrorist incident that
Yes.
took place
1 week ago.
1 week ago during the mass of the St. Mark's Cathedral, killing
Yes.
25 people. So how do you see these measures?
It is very important to tighten security consideration, security situation around the churches and all public places. And another important factor, which is a popular factor. People need to be aware, and we need to create the awareness of the people of security considerations. We don't see any terrorist or attacks inside Israel. I would say Israel, yes. Because the people, all the people have this awareness of all security factors and concerns. So we need to raise and increase and raise the standard of security concerns of the people, so that they are the people who give almost 50% of the effort needed to combat terrorism in Egypt.
Yes. And from El Masri اليوم, we read some local news. A breakthrough in the prices of the medicine, increasing the local by 15% and imported by 20%. And the Ministry of Health and Companies awaits the approval of the government. The Ministry of Health and Medicine Companies awaits the approval of the cabinet on the increase of the prices of medications. Of course, there were some shortages in some medicines, and now we are hearing about some increase by about 15% for the local medicine and 20% for the imported. How do you see this?
Well, I see that there is a problem, and we have to face it. Unless we know the problem, then we will not be able to face it. There is a problem as far as the health sector is concerned. One of its components is the medicines.
Of course.
People do not find medicine, or it is costing them more. We have to face the fact that we have devalued our currency, and so the prices should rise. And this is one thing. Other thing is that
also of the value of the Egyptian pound versus foreign currencies, especially the dollar and euro.
Yes, that is correct. Most of the medicines which we produce in Egypt, a good part of the component of the ingredients are imported. So this will be reflected, or this already reflected on the cost. It should be conveyed in some way or other to the end user or the consumer. We have to face this fact, and we have to cooperate so that this increase in prices is relevant to the increase in the cost, not any windfall profit. Let us be clear about this point. No windfall profit to the medicine companies, because sometimes the increase in cost is 10%. They say it has doubled. And we have seen that in many cases. So we have to be very careful as far as increasing the price of medicine, but it must increase. But which percentage? 10 and 20% seems quite reasonable, and I hope that the Ministry of Health will come to grab the situation and control the deficiencies we have in many parts of the medical sector.
Yes, hopefully, sir. And from Akhbar front page, we read also 81 million pounds, the highest crossing fare in the history of the Suez Canal. That would pay the largest oil tanker in the world on Sunday. The largest oil tanker in the world crosses the Suez Canal. The supertanker paid 81 million pounds, the highest fare in the history of the Suez Canal Authority. Of course, it's the highest fare, 81 million pounds for the passing of the biggest oil tanker in the world.
About I prefer to look to it in US dollars. Yes, because our receipts are in dollars when we put it in pounds, at which exchange rate. It is about 4 million US dollars, more than 4 million US dollars. This means that in one day and just one super tanker. This is the financial consideration. Another consideration which is very important is that this super tanker is passing through the Suez Canal. This means that the Suez Canal is safe. It can accommodate and absorb
huge super tanker,
huge super tankers, and most importantly, that the receipts goes to the development plan which we have in new administrative capital and other development projects which we have in Egypt.
Yes, and we hope, of course, that other tankers and other
we will most welcome, of course.
We have economic to increase the revenue, of course.
Yes, we have economic zone in Suez Canal area. It is economic zone now, not just a passage of ships,
Indeed.
but rather an economic zone or a special economic zone or free economic zone.
We are waiting for the Suez Canal access to be finished and developed.
It will. It will.
Yes,
it is a matter of time. It is simply a matter of time. Luckily, it is the world trade is sluggish at this moment, at this time, last couple of years. And during this couple of years, we established our new Suez Canal or this new connection for the Suez Canal. That is a good thing.
Yeah, indeed. And from El Wafd, page 3. Worries in Israel from the arming of the army. For the Egyptian army, and the Hebrew-Israeli Today newspaper reveals that Tel Aviv is worried from the development in the military capabilities of Egypt and Egypt's keenness to possess the state-of-the-art weapons. The paper hinted that Egypt possesses Russian-made 8 submarines, stressing that Israel should also enhance its military capabilities in light of the instability of the region. What's your take on that?
Well, we are also worried from the armament increase in Israel. This is one thing. Let us be clear about that.
Indeed.
Now, Egypt is not a country in the Middle East, but it's a focal force or focal power in the Middle East.
Yeah.
So if we call it a force or a power, this means it should be powerful. Powerful, of course. The first thing we have to do is to see what we have of submarines and airplanes and carriers and like the Dolphin and the other armies which we have got during the last couple of years. This means that Egypt is paying attention to its army because it is very important not only for Egypt but for all the region. When I say all the region, that the eastern part countries and the western part countries, that is Gulf area and North African countries. If Egypt is not that powerful, I think that other powers can play havoc in the region, and so we are sacrificing our food and our everything, and we will do that as far as when it comes to our army. This is very important, and also it is a message to the others that Egypt is strong enough not only to defend its borders, but also to the second phase, if I can see that, second front lines, that is the Arab world, whether in the Gulf or in North Africa or in south to Egypt.
And from El Akhbar front page, the first drop of water reaches the new administrative capital next month. The supervisor of the development sector in the Housing Communities Authority says the sewage plant in the new administrative capital is the largest in the whole Middle East region and the largest seawater desalination plant in Port Said and El Alamein. I believe that this piece of news is a very, very optimistic one.
It is.
Yes, because we are seeing here real work on the ground. Yes. The administrative capital, the first drop of water would reach that place which we are building by next month. And also desalination plants both in Port Said and El Alamein. How do you see these projects?
It is a message. It is a very strong message, and the economic one, I like the economic messages because it is impressive to the livelihood.
It's a very important field now because it's the main concern of most of Egyptians.
It is economic.
Yeah, indeed.
When we say water in the new administrative capital, this means that the capital will be there. It will take its time in construction. But the first thing which we need is water. Of course, there is power and energy and electricity and many infrastructure, a lot. But the first point is that we should have water for the people. For us too, or for now to be know that the water is in new capital, let us call it the new capital. This means that we are we are serious about the construction of this capital. It will take its time, whether 3 years or 5 years or 7 years, even 7 years. Many embassies, many foreign companies are now beginning to construct their own sites in the new capital. For them to do that, first thing they need is the water. Now here is water. This is a part of it.
Yes.
The other part is that if there are any problems about the scarcity or abundance of water in the River Nile, still we are using the other sources, that is desalination. Desalination, that is very important message also. We will not be crippled by this or that power which tries to suffocate Egypt as far as water is concerned. We will not be suffocated.
Indeed, sir. And from Al Wafd, page 3. The death of 43 soldiers in the suicide attack in Aden. The deaths toll have increased to reach 52, and a suicide bomber kills at least 52 soldiers gathered to receive their monthly payment in the Yemeni port city of Aden. And Daesh claims responsibility for the attack. To shed more light, we have the following report by Ines Higgins.
A suicide bomber blew himself up outside a military camp in the Yemeni city of Aden on Sunday, killing at least 52 soldiers. Officials said 63 people were also injured in the blast. They added that preliminary investigations showed the blast was the work of a bomber wearing an explosives-laden vest. The attack took place as soldiers lined up to collect their salaries. The Daesh affiliate claimed responsibility for the attack in a statement posted on Daesh-run Amaq news agency. It was not possible to immediately verify the claim. The bombing was the latest to underscore how militants have been able to exploit Yemen's conflict to stage large-scale attacks and expand their reach, notably in the south. Sunday's blast took place at the same military base that was also struck by a suicide bomber on December 10, killing 57 soldiers. Aden is controlled by a loose coalition of troops loyal to the internationally recognized government of President Abdurrabbu Mansour Hadi, local militias and militant groups. They are battling Shiite rebels known as Houthis, who seized Yemen's capital Sana'a in 2014 and later swept across much of northern Yemen. Aden serves as the temporary capital for the internationally recognized government.
The developments in Yemen, sir, what's your take on these developments taking place there?
Terrorism, we see from this that Yemenis are killing other Yemenis.
Yes.
This is terrorism. What we have seen in St. Peter's church in Cairo also is repeated in Yemen and in Daesh, by Daesh, whether or not they have done it with some kind of local organization calls itself Daesh. In many cases you find that terrorism has local roots, but the leaves sometimes are from foreign countries,
yes,
and they
indeed.
are fed by other forces. I know that some people are trying to play havoc in the Arab countries, and we are so still Houthiyyin until the moment they did not come to terms with their own countrymen.
Yes.
As far as prevailing peace, we need peace to prevail in Yemen, because it's very important, because it is on the southern mouth of the Red Sea, so it is relevant to Egypt, and you have to take care of what is happening there.
Indeed. Of course, Mr. Ayoub Mahmoud, former Minister of Commerce, thank you very much, sir, and have a lovely morning.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
And our dear viewers, that will bring us to the end of our press review for today. Now we'll go to a short break, and after that we'll be back to resume the segments of the breakfast show, so stay tuned.